to share with us, pen off something on the chat room, we'll be able to look at it. The team that is here is keen on picking your thoughts and your ideas from the chat room. For those of us who have their cameras on, you may only turn them on when you are participating or when you're actually presenting. So for now, we will just pray that we can put the cameras off and put your audios off unless you're speaking. That's just part of our housekeeping rules. Right now, allow me to invite our Dr. Mwaka. Dr. Mwaka, if you allow me to reveal your location, even though we can't tell where you are, but from the way you're glowing, definitely that's not in Africa. Definitely that's not in Kakamega. The way you're looking, you're not looking beaten. So I'm sure Komaju, you're somewhere up there. But, so thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Once again, welcome. There are others who are on another link, but they're joining us. My name is Walter Mungaragu, your moderator. And I've put my number on the chat room just in case there's something that you need us to do for you. Over to you, Dr. Caroline Mwaka. Good morning and good afternoon or good evening, wherever you are, Dr.
Right, thank you so much. Definitely 10 minutes to 2 a.m. here. And it's a pleasure to welcome you, all of us, colleagues, friends, scholars, everybody here who is here. I want to say good morning.
Yeah. Should I start now? Should I start at the presenter?
Dr. You want to unmute your microphone?
Oh, it is. It is. So probably on that side.
Anyone hearing her?
Yes, I can hear her clearly.
Sorry.
Yes, can you hear us? Can you hear us?
Yes, we can hear you thoroughly. And
all right.
For a while, you've lost your smile, so just smile back. You're on TV.
Yes, yes, I have to smile. But first of all, I have to apologize that this is not Desta, because usually we have very way of ensuring that things are working. So I hope that, our researchers in future, we definitely try to put up a very good preparation for this kind of engagements. These are very serious engagements. And I know that this would definitely cost us as if we continue to have. So we are hoping that we are all well, but I want to welcome all of us on this very, very interesting area of discussion, especially when we're talking about research, talking about indigenous kind of research, culture, and many things. These are subjects that are very close to our hearts, especially for us who are in psychology, and not just academic topic, but it brings in our identity as a people. It gives us ownership as a people. It gives us relevance as a people, and culture is part of us. I was following up something online, and I saw a girl raised in the US trying to eat food with her hands, and someone said, "No, use your fork." And many Africans say, do you eat hot dogs with forks? So all these kind of things. So culture, indigenous knowledge, and research around this is very important for us. For long, much of the research has been conducted here in Africa, but yet, a lot has been framed around theories that are not really mostly originating from Africa. And in this context, it's important we have to discuss topics that are going to touch our own area of research around our cultural belief system, around how this can actually translate into very good research that will inform the globe on how we are doing everything else. So while global scholarship is of value, we must be able to carefully not let it define the boundaries of our own thinking. When we borrow uncritically, in other words, like in psychology, we use testing, we do a lot of testing, we do a lot of diagnosis. We use measures that are done not necessarily in Africa, but done globally, but in different contexts. But we are saying that sometimes run in the risk of producing knowledge that is elegant on paper, but very hollow in terms of practice here back at home. So localizing research for us here means recentering the African experience in our scholarly work. It means asking questions that arise from our own contexts as Africans, drawing from the wisdom of communities, around, not necessarily even Africa, whether it's in the US here, it's in Europe, whether it's in Asia, but borrowing so much from there because we are almost a global persons or a village, and allowing indigenous knowledge, systems to stand not as just a curious of the past, but legitimate sources of our theory and practice today. So when we do this, we're not rejecting global scholarship. No, we are simply saying that we are enriching it. We're enriching it. And therefore, we should place our voices into the conversation, ensuring that this knowledge or a production is in no way on the street, but it's going to produce dialogue among equals. For example, today's colloquium is mourning rituals among the Luhya. I am originally from Luhya, obviously Maragoli again, to be very, very specific. For some, these people, some will just say, this is cultural. But look, we are meeting here from different cultures, whether you're coming from Mekero, where Walter said, or whether you're coming from Muranga, or whether you're coming from South Africa. We are meeting here so that we can be able not just talk about Luhyas, but talk about the African indigenous culture of mourning and how this brings in, grief process. What does it inform in terms of grief process? What does it tell us when people mourn, and how does it impact? So it's not just pure culture, but it is going to be able to be bringing some concerns around modern psychology. When we examine it more closely, we discover profound insights into how communities process grief, sustain resilience, and rebuild social bonds in the face of loss. They are precisely the issues of psychologists are trying to address, and of course, using generations to be able to study over the time. We have now Gen Z, we have millennials, we have different generations. Is the rituals that we've had in the past still playing a role? Has it changed? Has the global ritual affected our way we do our things? It is seen. So all we are simply saying is that we want to localize research. We want to create a space of honor of such knowledge. We want to start with rigor and translate these lessons into frameworks that can serve not just Africa, but the world. And let us be clear, this is not just, things that we are doing. It's an act of innovation. It's an act of going back and looking at some of the rituals. I was watching CNN recently, and I heard about this drug and an origin American talking about a drug in one of the African countries that could literally help in helping patients dealing with addictions, and saying that why don't we get that and bring that particular plant in America, and then we'd be able to use to treat people with different disorders in terms of addiction. The moderator, you can try to mute those speakers. So what we are simply saying is that in terms of solutions for mental health, the way people grieve, the way people mourn, the way we process grief, can we use the Bluetooth device is connected successfully? Can we have a moderator trying to, yes, so that can we use our culture? Luhya, it's not just Luhya that we are here, but we are standing in for different African cultures that can present ourselves in different forms, so that we can use this knowledge to enrich on how people can deal with grief process, and also be able to deal with mental illness that come along when we lose our loved ones or people who are very close to us. So for us researchers, this calls for courage. It calls for humility. And courage is to step away from the comfort established theories, and humility, and learn from our elders, learn from our communities and our traditions. It requires us to value our histories. It requires us to value our traditions. It requires us to value our proverbs and rituals that that can add into the data that is currently global as evidence that stands alongside statistics and experiments. So I believe that this is the task of our generation of scholars, to create knowledge that is authentic, that is ours, knowledge that speaks to our realities, knowledge that is able to contribute confidently with courage to global intellectual community and discourse around what culture brings in, especially around mental illness and such as areas like, the mourning. So we begin these days deliberations, and I invite all of us to think about localization of research, localization of indigenous knowledge in terms of contributing to the global scholarship so that we can be able to use it and have a voice and showcase that our culture literally also contributes a lot in terms of healing process around mental illnesses. So how might we make our research not only academically sound, but also relevant and transformative? It is by answering these questions that the true value of scholarship will be seen, not just in universities, but in the communities that look to us in terms of wisdom and guidance. So I speak this not just on behalf of myself as a clinical psychologist, but I'm also speaking on behalf of the research fraternity, the scholarship fraternity, so that we may be able to start a conversation around our culture, around our indigenous knowledge, around our what it can contribute to the global scholarship, the African psychology. So I want to welcome all of us, and hopefully that as we engage as scholars in this discourse, this is going to bring in quite good dialogue, and of course we have very many scholars I've seen all the way from diaspora. If we take Kenya as the country where the conference, this colloquium is being held, we have so many who have come from international, who have joined us. We have students here, we have professors of research, professors of clinical psychology and counseling, and different types of psychology. It is important we bring this knowledge together, we discuss. On behalf of the Directorate of Research and Innovation at Daystar University, on behalf of my colleagues, the Deputy Vice Chancellor Academics and Research, I want to welcome you so much at Daystar. Let's make this as interesting, and we hope that this is going to enrich our scholarship and also enrich the academy. Thank you so much, and we say in Africa, Karibuni, and welcome. And of course, in Maragoli, we say Karibuni. I don't know how we say it in Maragoli. I'm trying to think. Karibuni, I think, Walter. We say that. But Orio sana, sande sana, kwenye vosi, karibuni. Thank you so much, and let's have this discussion.
Thank you, Daktari. In
trying to look for Maragoli word of karibuni. Can you imagine? I can't get it.
In Maragoli, it's there. The word in Maragoli to say karibu is you just put a Maragoli accent on the word karibu, and then you say karibu. That way, and it's very easy. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Well,
setting this conversation going. Allow us to go scholarly at this point and ask Dr. Elizabeth Gishimu and Dr. Asatsa to just give us a presentation. We'll be coming back to you, Daktari, for many, many other questions that we have. We're just reminding those of us who are participating, those who are in here, please feel free to have a cup of tea that has been served. The cameras will be on you so that as you take the tea, those who are online can swallow as you chew. So it's a way of participating. So please feel free to have a cup of tea. And those of us who are online, grab something as we have this discussion. Please allow me now to ask Dr. Gishimu and Dr. Asata to take us through the presentation. Thank you.
All right, so it's a good morning once again. For those of us joining online, karibuni sana, and thank you for honoring our invitation for us to make our presentation. This is research we've been conducting since 2020 it's still ongoing. And there have been a lot of interesting things that have come up from the data that we have been able to gather this far. So we feel very honored for you accepting our invitation to come and listen to, so far, what have we been able to find out. So in a short while, we'll begin our presentation. And the rationale for this study is that for a long time, in terms of the kind of knowledge that has been generated, a majority of it has come from the Western global North. Now, there is a psychologist by the name of Edwin Nichols who says that different groups of people have different axiology. That is a value system, which feeds into the logic, how they think, and then epistemology, the way they actually synthesize information. And it's in that we see for Africans, he says that the highest value system, that's the axiology, is relationship. So then that means their logic or their way of synthesizing is diunital. What does that mean? That it's not an either or kind of thinking. It's about getting to a consensus. And the epistemology is symbolic imagery and rhythm. And that can actually be seen in how Africans use a lot of oral language when it comes to their presentation. Now, Western axiology or highest value is the object, which then means the logic is dichotomous, either or way of thinking, and the epistemology, how they come up with knowledge, is either through counting and measuring. And what we see a lot of in terms of what is the output of research, the African axiology, epistemology, and logic are underrepresented. And hence, there is a heavy over-reliance on what is out there, which is the Western way of thinking, which is objective methods in research. And therefore, there is a need for Africa to tell their story in research. And so in this context, we allow the Luhya to tell us their grief story captured through the mourning ritual.
So thank you, Dr. Liz, for sharing and giving us that introduction. And we are presenting our findings on a study we've carried out for 2 years from 2023 among the Luhya community of Western Kenya. And this, I would start by giving an ethnographic background of this community. And this is the second largest community in Kenya. It makes up about 14% of the population of Kenya. It inhabits 4 counties in Western Kenya, and the community comprises of 17 sub-tribes. I've had the MC mentioning Maragoli is one of them. I am a researcher from that community. My sub-tribe is Batotso, they are Tiriki, they are Bukusu, among many others. So in this community, major milestones are marked with specific accompanying rituals, ranging from childbirth to initiation, to death, to marriage. All these are marked by different rituals. And just one of the things also to note about this community, to them, chicken is a very important creature, because chicken is used both as a delicacy, but chicken is also used for performing some of these rituals that we are talking about. So you'll see sometimes when they are performing the rituals, they'll tell you you need to bring a white chicken or a black one. So a very important bird in that community. And we will then look at the background of this study. And in this study, we looked at rituals. We narrowed on rituals. And we know that rituals have been used across. It's not just among the Luhyas, but across different communities in the world. People use rituals for different things. All of us who are represented here, if you look back in your communities, you'll find some levels of rituals. But what are we saying here? That rituals have been practiced for many years, but with globalization, westernization, and also missionization, these rituals are under threat. We are finding most people who have gone to school, they feel the rituals are backwards and they shouldn't be used. But there is growing evidence that rituals serve an evolutionary function in the life of human beings. And for our study today, we are focusing on what is the function of these rituals in grieving, and looking at the rituals and how people are abandoning rituals. People abandon rituals and then they adapt methods that are foreign, methods that are Western, that don't actually augur well with the communities that are represented on the ground. So our study is based on 3 objectives, and one of the objectives was to explore the therapeutic value of Luhya traditional mourning rituals. So we want to look at, as we look at through these rituals, what is the value? How can they be applied in grieving? And then we want to examine how are the rituals transmitted, through what mechanisms? Because we are saying these rituals have been there for years. How come they have been transmitted all these years? What is the process of learning them? That's one of the questions the study is going to answer. And the other question is, what content is carried in these rituals? So in this study, we realized they are not just rituals. There is a lot of content that is also carried across. There is a lot of other knowledge that, apart from just grieving, this ritual carry a lot of heavy content that is then being passed from generation to generation. So I'll welcome Dr. Liz to take us through the methodology that we adopted in this study.
Right. Thank you, Dr. Satsa. So now we're going to how was this study carried out? For the data that we have, we had focus group discussions, which involved 45 community elders, 30 bereaved adults, and 30 bereaved adolescents. And also we carried out interviews with 8 religious leaders. Then there was also pre-listing. This is a methodology we borrowed from anthropology, with 40 adolescents. There was also observation of 20 burial ceremonies. Apart from that, we also conducted, it was a mixed methods study. So we also conducted surveys with 200 bereaved community members. And what we were trying to look for, one, is subjective well-being, pro-sociality, and then there was also a tool to screen for us the rituals, participation, basically which rituals are majority of the people aware of.
Yeah, so from these results, from the methods that we use, and as we can see, we have used multiple methods, because initially when we've talked about axiology, epistemology, and logic in research, and we've actually found that most of the studies that are carried out in Africa, we use the Western epistemologies. We don't allow our people to tell the stories. That's why we have gone deep, combining psychometric, which represents the Western perspective. But when we look at behavioral observation, interviews, and focus groups, here we are trying to look at the African epistemology, where we can pick data from stories, from the lifestyles of people. And from these methods, then we were able to come up with this number of rituals, 25 rituals that are performed in this community following the death of someone. And when analyzing our data, we have used thematic analysis, but we also conducted quantitative analysis using various statistical tests, as we'll be able to see in the results. So from the interviews with the elders, these are the rituals that came up, and they are well structured because they are they are grouped in terms of pre-burial rituals and then burial rituals, the rituals that happen when the burial is taking place, and then the post-burial rituals. So just a highlight, because I'll be getting deeper to explain what each of these rituals mean. So we have one of the rituals is vigil. People normally have to gather in the family where the death has occurred and have a vigil. There is a fire that is lit that is supposed to keep burning until the burial is done. And most of the community members meet around that fire. There is confinement of the widow, dowry and death payment. If someone was married and the dowry was not paid, burial cannot take place before that dowry is paid. Speaking to the dead person, it's a very common practice in this community. They speak to the dead and the dead hear. We will see how the dead are able to hear. There is also beating the dead, especially for people that die because of suicide. They are normally taken as a form of punishment. And then there is wailing, there is dressing the dead, there is washing the dead. We don't bury people when they are dirty. They need to go to the next world when they are clean. And then when deaths are unnatural, there is please mute. People cannot, like when someone dies unnaturally, like an accident, you cannot be brought home through the normal gate that is used by everybody. They create a special gate for you, and then after your burial, that gate will be closed. That's what we are calling the new gate for unnatural death. Then we go to burial rituals. What happens during burial? We have shaming the deceased. There are rituals that are specifically designed to shame the deceased. Burial of banana stem. There is this chiremba, is a Luhya word that has no English equal. So we are allowed to use this and adopt those terms in English. Burial in seated position. There are clans that bury people when they are seated. Then there are other rituals, a group of rituals that we call family preservation rituals. And there is giving tribute. There are people who are buried with the torch and sword. We will look at that. When is someone buried with a sword? There are people buried behind the houses, and there are those who are buried with either the buttocks or the manhood pierced. We will look at that. And then, of course, post-burial, we have cleaning of burial equipment. You don't just use the equipment and integrate them with other equipment. There is shaving. There is chinini, that's a Luhya word that we have decided to add to the English dictionary. There is disabo, bukoko, those are Luhya words. Then there is sexual cleansing, which no longer happens, but it used to happen in the past. And then there is destroying of the house of the deceased. So this is just an overview. So I invite you now so that we get together to examine deeply some of each of these rituals that we are talking about and what is the psychological purpose. So we have wailing, and this is public crying following the death of a person. So this crying is not supposed to be hidden in a counseling room. It is done publicly, dramatically, and people are supposed to express themselves through crying. And one of the purposes that this crying is done is to announce the death. It's a form of communication. So when one person dies, they cry, and then now the community will find out where are people crying. And then this crying is inviting the community to join the bereaved family, where they are going to give social support for all the days that the body will be there. And it's also an expression of pain. When someone has died, it's an expression of pain. When people wail, it's an expression of pain. So this is one of the rituals that we feel is actually playing a very good psychological role in terms of healing after going through grief. And then there is body preparation. I'll highlight a bit on how the body is prepared, both for the funeral and for burial. So in this community, the body is washed and dressed neatly. So you'll find someone who has never put on a suit, but a suit will be bought. When the person dies, he's supposed to be neat. When members of the community come to view the body, they need to see someone who is neat. So when someone dies, there are so many things that happen. So this person is supposed to be cleaned and now be prepared for public viewing, which in this community, you'll see they don't hide bodies. You'll see open caskets. They are usually open caskets where members of the community coming have to view the body, interact with the body as a way of giving the last respect. And then there is dressing the body for burial. Now, in this community, there are certain things that are prohibited. People cannot be buried by those things with those things. One of them is if you have jewelry, that has to be removed. If you have a watch, it has to be removed during burial. If you have a tie, the tie will be removed. We don't bury our people with shoes. Now, the innerwear is also not. Those are things that are supposed to be removed. They don't bury people with innerwears. And yeah, we'll have some videos from the field that we'll want to play so that you'll hear what the community is saying to explain some of these rituals that we are talking about. So the purpose of preparing the body is for, of course, for public viewing by the community, but also preparing the body for the ancestral world. Because some instances in this community where people were buried with this thing in violation of the culture of the community, then they always came back in dreams. They disturbed the living, that you have to go and exhume the body and remove those things, because the dead person coming in dreams is saying they are not allowed to enter the next world. They are being chased from there. So they'll keep disturbing the family with dreams until the family has to exhume and remove those items so that the body is buried in the way it's supposed to be. So I don't know what we do with the sound system. This is just a clip where the community members explain why doing some of those. So the voice cannot be picked from there. Unfortunately, you'll not hear, but it's a very interesting interaction with the community members. They are explaining to us why some of these rituals are done. We have grave positioning. In this community, graves are not just put anyhow. There is an order. People can even know where their grave will be when you are alive. So one of the positions that graves are put is the right-hand side of the house. Like when you move from the door of the house to the right-hand side, that is where a man is buried, the man of the family. So when a man is buried, a man dies, is buried to the right-hand side if he died first. But if the woman dies first, the right hand is for the man, the left-hand side of the door is for the woman of the house. But if the woman dies first, she will be buried on the left, yes. But then the man, when he dies, he has to be buried to the right of that woman so that she's always on his left. Now, if the man dies first, you see he's buried on the right. And when the woman will die, the woman then will be buried on the right, but on the left side of the man. So by just observing a Luhya homestead, if there are graves there, and you are told this is the grave of the woman, this is the grave of the man, you can be able to detect who died earlier. Now, then the other burial position is the fence. Now, the fence is where the graves are actually hidden. The graves are put in a position where they are not supposed to be seen by visitors coming in. And one of the people who are normally buried in the fence, they are women who reached the marriage age and they were not married, or the women who are married and they got divorced. When they go back to this community, they are not buried like other people. They are supposed to be buried aside. Again, looking at this positioning of grave rituals, first, you can see it is communicating the power structure in the family. You can already see who has the power. This is a patriarchal society. Then they are trying also to enforce family formation and procreation. The community is worried that they would not want to depopulate. So when they see, like, they would interpret divorce like it's a way of trying to reduce the numbers of the community. And that's why they are burying these people in this manner, so that it can be a deterrence. Of course, we'll have a lot of discussion around that. And then, yes, I wish we could be able to hear again, because this is a video. This is an elder showing me and explaining why this grave is supposed to be put on the side of the fence. So it's actually, this is a live data collection experience in the field, and this elder is pointing to us. He has taken us to the fence where the grave of such is normally placed, and why, trying to explain why the grave is placed there. One of the other things that we also found is when someone dies, the distance of the grave from the house is also very important. If, for example, it's a couple and then the man dies and the woman is still young meaning she can remarry, then the grave of the man is supposed to be placed like further away from the house, because the community believes if you place the grave near the house, then you are locking this woman. No man would want to see her. But if it's an old man who dies and they know very well this woman will not get remarried, then the grave is normally moved very close to the house. So those are some of the ways that the graves are positioned and get a lot of cultural aspects on this. Then there is another ritual we call widow seclusion. This ritual, when a woman loses the husband, immediately she is assigned another woman who is also a widow. This woman is supposed to take care of this new widow throughout the funeral period. So she sits with this woman, she feeds her, she cleans her. Like, this woman is never allowed to do anything. So this is a very highly specialized way of social support that the community gives to this widow. And it's believed in this community that a widow, a widow has acquired that position of widowed recently, like her shadow is not supposed to interact with the other members of the public. So if you allow, they say if you are the shadow of this woman like integrates with the other members of the community, then there is a disease they will get. So this is one of the ways they use to enforce that this widow will not participate in work. She's supposed to be seated and being served. Then this is a ritual of sharing the property of the deceased. And it's not just all property, it is personal effects. So when someone dies, usually after 30 days, the community members go back. And it's not now the community, it is now the immediate family. Just the extended family of this person, they come back for a celebration. It's an overnight celebration. So they feast, and feasting is really an important part in these community funerals. Actually, funerals are valued. If your funeral, people did not eat well, that is a very bad funeral, according to this community. So one of the yardsticks of measuring a very well-presented funeral is how did people eat. So in this feast, again, people will eat, and then the following day, they remove the items. So if you had suits, clothes, shoes, they'll remove and bring them outside the house. Then in turn, people pick one by one. Now, what the community is doing here, they are sharing part of the deceased. They are taking part of the deceased at home. And this facilitates what we call continuing bonds. Those of us who are coming from psychology, there is a whole model on grief that talks about continuing bonds, that we don't sever connection with our deceased people. We actually continue connecting with them even in death. This is one ritual that actually helps to facilitate that. And then this controversial one of speaking to the dead. In this community, the dead are spoken to and they hear. The dead can hear clearly, because during some of the instances where the dead are spoken to is during burial of people who died of unnatural death. Usually the community buries them and instructs the person. So there are people who are telling the person what to do. So if this person died, and then we do not know, the community does not know who killed the person. This person was murdered. They'll be buried in a very special way, but there are special people who talk to them and give them instructions that in the spirit world, they need to search for the people who killed them and also kill them. So it's a revenge. It's a kind of instructing the dead to revenge or on their own. This ritual of speaking is also done when, say, someone died and they had an unfinished business. There was an unresolved problem that forgiveness had not been arranged. Usually they don't allow a person to be buried before the reconciliation is done. So usually the community will organize a forgiveness session. And in this session, some elders will come and now talk to the person who has died and ask them to forgive this other person. Then they'll ask the other person to greet them actually as a sign of peace, so that they make peace between the living and the dead. Then sometimes when the dead person is also disturbing, they are coming in dreams and disturbing dreams. Elders can actually go to the grave and give instructions to this person to stop disturbing and to sleep to sleep wherever they went. You may have also heard this on television, that sometimes when bodies of Luhya people are being transported to Western and they don't like the way they are being transported, they normally reach certain places in Nakuru and they stop, they refuse to go. The vehicle just develops a mechanical problem and they check, the mechanics will come and check and find the vehicle is okay until they bring someone special from that community. And the person will just talk to the dead and tell them, please don't disturb us, allow us to go home, and the vehicle will be able to move. So that's how I was trying to say this community, even the dead are able to hear. And we look at this ritual, it facilitates catharsis, because when you're talking to this person, you are releasing emotions, it's creating those connections and dealing with unfinished business. And I wanted us to reflect on this as psychologists, comparing this with the technique, Gestalt technique of empty chair. Because in empty chair, people talk to an empty chair. You place an empty chair in the room and people talk to an empty chair. When Dr. Liz was presenting about the epistemology, axiology, and logic of the Western cultures, we found the Western cultures, they are objects, like they are object-oriented. These Western, African and Asian cultures are relational. Now, when you take an empty chair to the Luhya community and you are a counselor and you are asking people, now you are dealing with unfinished business and you're asking people who are relational, now speak to an empty chair. They don't get connection with it. But this ritual of speaking to the dead can actually be actively applied in therapy by actually asking people, instead of speaking to a chair, they can simply go to a grave and speak to the chair, to the grave, because the person who is in the grave can hear. And then you'll deal with the issue of unfinished business with a local method that is not borrowed, like the empty chair that we normally enforce on people. So that is speaking to the dead. Then there is what we call heroic burial. Now these rituals, they are done for people who have lived exemplary lives. It's not just for any person. So if someone has been morally upright and they lived their life well, usually there are two rituals that are performed in this community. The Shilemba ritual, this is where people, after burial, people dance. There's a dance that is organized and bullfighting on the grave. The bullfighting is done on the grave. People dance, and this is a way of sending off a hero. But in some other clans in this community, they also bury such people in a seated position. So I was told only the men are buried that way. They don't bury women in the seated position. Only men who have been exemplary are buried in a seated position. And this is one of the rituals that speaking to the dead actually works a lot, because when someone dies, we know that the joints no longer work. You cannot fold the hands. You cannot fold the knees. But remember, this body that is supposed to be buried in a seated position, this body is supposed to be, hands are supposed to be folded, legs are supposed to be folded so that the body can take the sitting position. Now, there are special people who talk to the body and the body flexes, just folds the joints. And it's an exercise that is done and the person is able to hear their own people. And usually during that exercise, only men and grown-up men who are beyond the stage of getting children are allowed to go to that house where this man is being talked to. So women and young boys and young men are usually not allowed in that room. I remember when we went for this data collection, and I found out an active funeral that this ritual was being done at night. And yeah, we have John here, is one of my research assistants. We went with him in the field. I was invited to that ritual. He was told never to step there. Like he's still a young man. He's not supposed to see such rituals. So this is a ritual that happens, and these people respond, and the body is folded, and they actually buried in a seated position. But if someone had any blemish in the community, they were immoral, then this does not apply to them. So now this is just a video clip of the first ritual, the dancing around the grave. That's a hero who has just been buried. So as you can see, the community is now coming in and they're actually dancing they are going to do a bullfight on the grave of that person. That's how heroically these people are. Then there is a ritual for shaving. And usually after burial, the community normally, or the family normally goes back maybe after 2 days. They go around the grave, and there is shaving of hair that is done. Now, this shaving signifies a new beginning, that yes, we are now finished the mourning process. Now we are entering a new beginning where the deceased is missing. So a very important, again, ritual there. Then the ritual of vigil. It's a compulsory thing that when a Luhya person dies, there is a fire that is normally lit in the family, in the compound, where family members and the community will actually be staying around. They sleep there, they make their stories there. And it's not just a fire. This fire is never lit before like if someone dies and the body is still in the mortuary, this fire cannot be lit. The fire is only lit when the owner of that funeral, the owner is the one who has died, is in the compound. So if someone died in Nairobi and the family is already starting to meet, they will not light this fire outside. They'll meet, yes, they'll sit outside, but they can't light this fire. Only on the day the person arrives, this is when this fire is lit. And the fire is just to keep the mourners warm, but it's a spot. It's a safe spot for important conversations that happen, where now the community members who have come to offer social support normally interact with the rest of the family members. And then, yeah, the controversial beating of the dead. This ritual is done for people who die of suicide. So usually it's the first thing they do when they find someone who has died of suicide. The community has to instruct that this person has to be punished. Now, beating was an old way of punishment. So they are actually warning the rest of the community members that this kind of death is not good. And this is very controversial for psychologists. We have presented this across different forums, and it's actually controversial, but we are just reporting what happens. This is a descriptive study. We are just reporting what happens in this community. And yes, as we can see, it is a form of punishment. In our published papers, when we were trying to discuss this ritual, we found studies that are saying that suicide is contagious. So this is a way the community now was deterring contagion of suicide. We have studies done in other cultures. In the US, there are papers showing that suicide is actually contagious. When there are areas when suicide was publicized on social media, then the researchers went and tested suicidal behavior in those communities or in those contexts. They found the high rates of suicidal behavior after publicizing the act of suicide. So this is one way the community is trying to deter. Then there is rituals of shaming. Now, who are shamed? In this community, first, we've already said, when you die of suicide or murder, then the burial is not normal. In fact, you are buried at night, and the funeral is restricted. Not the community members are not allowed to attend. Only elders, again, who have who are beyond the birth or children bearing age, not just anybody. These are the elders who attend these funerals. Women and children and younger men are barred from attending this funeral. And then no ceremony for this kind of death. No other ceremony. After burial, no other ceremony. And then these people can also not be named. When children are born in this community, they cannot be named after these people. And yes, the grave of this person is not supposed to be protruding beyond the ground. For people who die of suicide or murder, the grave is supposed to be flattened, to be at the level of the ground, to make this person to be forgotten immediately. They don't want when members of the community come, they see oh, there was a grave here. They flatten and plant grass on it. That's how this community treats that population. And so the main purpose is to deter suicide and unnatural deaths. And also they are really valuing community continuity. They feel if this kind of unnatural death happens, it is depopulating the community, and that would be a threat to the survival of the community. We have retaliation rituals. Retaliation rituals are done to avenge. So if someone is killed and the murderers are not known, during burial, this person will be buried with a sword and with a torch. The work of the sword is he's being given a weapon to use in the spirit world to fight for to revenge for his own death. And the torch is supposed to be, I believe the spirit world may be dark. The torch is supposed to be used to, yeah, to search the person who killed this person. And usually they are buried at night by strangers. These strangers are usually taken from where the mother of this person comes from. And then this is a very specialized area where now speaking to the dead works, because these strangers are the one now instructing this person, please use this knife or this sword, go and avenge yourself. If you are a man, they are telling you, do not sleep in the grave. Be a man, fight for yourself. And so you can see how this community looks for justice. This is one of the out-of-court settlements of cases. So yeah, instead of going to the court and trying to do public inquest, of course, those are done, but this community had their own way. And I think it calms the community to know, yeah, we don't know the killer, but we believe the one who died has gone to avenge his death himself. So it's actually transferring the process of justice to the spirit world, where there cannot be bribery or any corruption. This person will deal with people without corruption there. Then there are rituals around fertility. Childless and unmarried men are buried with a thorn pierced in their buttocks. That's a punishment, that this behavior should not be repeated. That's what the elders are saying. So they are believing that every man, when you reach the age of marriage, you need to marry and procreate. If you don't, then they give you a shameful burial. And then for divorced women, and they are buried behind the house or across the fence with hidden graves. And so again, these individuals are not named. So what the community is trying to do here is to deter depopulation and family degradation. This ritual seems to be enforcing family continuity. Yeah, though when we have this conversation in psychology spaces, again, we are finding possibly it is unfair to these people, because if I didn't have a child, it's not my fault. But when we ask the elders that way, they said, yes, it's not your fault, but we don't want this spirit to repeat, to continue affecting other people in the community. Now, bringing the spirit of the deceased home. Now, this applies to deaths where the person dies away from their home. So in this community, you are supposed to die in your compound. But in case you died in Nairobi, in case you died in America, the video link that is here, we didn't have a good sound system. I was about to share this video link. This YouTube link is a link for the former vice president of Kenya called Kijana Wamalwa. He died in London. They brought the body, they buried. Now, after burial, that was not enough. A part of him was left in London. The spirit was left. The body was able to fit in the aeroplane and came. Now, after burial, the community now has to go back again to bring the spirit. So they go with a few people with some container, some gifts. So they now go to the exact place he died. They sleep there, they sing there, they eat there. Then now they come back. So in this video, it's public on YouTube. We'll be able to share and see how the brother is explaining. The brother is also a prominent politician in the country. How he's actually the one who went to London to bring the spirit of the dead. So you see, in this community, death is not just the body. A human being is not just the physical body. We see there is another part, and that part has also to be brought. And when this spirit is not brought, they say you normally hear the community, people will keep seeing the person in dreams. He's complaining that he's being rained on. He's in the bush alone. He's outside alone. So he's demanding, please come and carry me and bring me home. So that when this ritual is done, then they bring the container that is believed to be carrying the spirit next to the grave. Then now the person will completely settle. Then there is burying of banana stem. Sometimes it's just planting the banana. This is for ambiguous deaths. These are deaths that occur and then the body cannot be traced. Say if you saw this, there is this plane that got lost, a Malaysian flight that got lost. It's never been found. I think it's how many 10 years now. Now, if any Luhya was there, now they would have now done, because they would stop searching. Of course, there is no possibility that plane will be found with live people. And it is clear this plane, like these people died, but we can't trace their body. The community believes in burying, like the final resting place of their people is their soil. So they will actually conduct a funeral, do all the things that happen on a funeral, but during burial, they will do symbolic burial. They bury a banana stem. And you can agree with me as psychologists, this brings closure. If people have been searching for the body and they are not finding, this brings closure and people are able to move on with life beyond the searching. And so we are seeing live that there are actually some of the rituals that can be adopted as techniques in our therapeutic spaces. Now, these are just a few rituals that we are able to describe. But when you go back to our methodology, then we also tested, we did some objective testing. We had an hypothesis that people who participate in rituals will actually present with higher subjective well-being and prosociality. When we projected our methodology slide, you saw we used, apart from interviews, focus, discussions, free listing, we also used standardized tools, subjective well-being scale and prosociality scale. So these scales were supposed to help us to assess the population that participated in ritual in comparison to those that did not. How is their well-being and how is their cooperation skills and prosociality skills? Now, these are the results. In this study, we were able to find a very strong association between participating in rituals and subjective well-being. And there was also a strong association between participating in rituals and prosociality. The people who participate in rituals tended to be more cooperative, and we know cooperation is a virtue for human survival. If we don't cooperate, our generation will be extinct. So this we're able to also show through quantitative methods that participating in rituals to this community actually boosts their well-being and it boosts their cooperation. So at this point, I want to bring Dr. Liz. We want to answer the next question. How are the rituals transmitted? How come the rituals have been performed for thousands of years? Is there a school for rituals? So Dr. Liz, you can proceed and tell us the school for rituals for this community.
Thank you very much, Dr. Satsa. As you can see, there's quite a lot to be mined from the rituals, and there's a lot that the rituals can actually tell us as psychologists. You know, there's a lot that our cultures have. There's a wealth of resource in our cultures, and this study clearly demonstrates that. Now, how are rituals transmitted across generations? So these are some of what we were able to pick. These are some of the themes we were able to pick. We have admonition, and that is use of reprimands and warning to enforce ritual learning. Then also, we have testimonies, and this is learning from stories and conversations in community gathering. I think you've seen part of the rituals. We have the one about sitting around the fire, and part of that then is where some of these take place. Then we have participation. And so in this one, members of the community are able to engage in various rituals that are appropriate to their age. You find that, again, culture is very clear on how each generation should be conducted. It's very protective in that sense. You find that there's things that certain members, for example, depending on their age group, and I think, again, we go back to psychology developmentally, from developmental psychology, we know that at various levels, based on the cognitive capacities of individuals, is what they have capacity for. And so we see again from culture, this is at least from the data, that this is something that was known. So we have different age groups being assigned whatever it is that is appropriate for them, and whatever it is they have capacity to understand. So coming down to the level of understanding of each individual. Then there's songs. I wish some of these clips would have played so that you get to actually see how some of the rituals are actually enforced, or how they're carried out. And so, again, with songs, what a lot of participants reported is that it helps them to better understand death. And I think there's just something about music, again, and I believe also in psychology, we know this. there's a therapeutic element to music. There's a way that it's the rhythm. Remember our epistemology, where we talked about symbolic imagery and rhythm, and you can see this aspect of song coming into play. Okay. All right. So from transmission, then what content of rituals is transmitted? So from the data, according to what we were able, again, the themes that emerged on some of the things that are carried in these rituals in order of what actually the most respondents told us is that one, there is the managing of emotions. And of course, in psychology, one of the core aspects of therapy is the processing of emotions. So we can see then now here through the various rituals, one of the goals that is being achieved is management of emotions. And then cooperation, that's the other thing. Through the coming together, through the carrying out, for example, various kinds of activity, again, also through just participation, that fosters cooperation. Another one is, again, the element of afterlife. I think that Asata has done a beautiful job, especially with the ritual of talking to the dead. African culture holds that there is life after death. And we are in Daystar, a Christian community. One of the values and virtues we also espouse is that life is beyond the physical. So even those who have died, though physically they're not present, yet they still continue to live. So that is also an element that also is carried in the rituals, at least from this study. Then, of course, there is also the element of cultural identity, ancestors, initiation into new generations, kinships, and gender roles. So we found that while, of course, these are the data actually picked, there's an element of these aspects that is transmitted, but you can see, especially for us as psychologists, things that are core to self-awareness, things that are core, again, to well-being, are heavily carried in these rituals.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Liz. And as we can see, the rituals are not just carrying grieving messages. They are carrying other heavy messages. They are teaching kinship. They are teaching gender roles. They are teaching afterlife. They are teaching the cultural identity of this community. They are teaching initiation of the new generations. They are teaching cooperation. That's how heavy this stuff of ritual is. And so we had some limitations, of course, for these rituals. We want to report ourselves that rituals, again, is not universal. First is some of the rituals were not endorsed by some community members. We had a very serious debate with religious leaders. Some of them who feel that these practices are not agreeing with their faith. So we want to acknowledge those dissenting voices. And also the rituals, we can see the rituals place a very high value to community well-being. When you look at this, like, let me pick the example of the rituals around suicide. Because you see that a person who dies of suicide, they are buried shamefully. They are supposed to be buried at night. There are no rituals done after that. They are beaten. Now, when you look at that ritual, we talk to many people and they say this is demeaning the person who has died. And I asked the elders in the interviews, like, why are you beating this person? Don't you think the children are seeing you are beating their father, not someone who died of suicide? And the elder said, yes, but then we are more concerned with the community well-being. So you can see the rituals are more, because this is a collective society again, the rituals tend to be promoting well-being of the community. But again, I have to say there, when we come to the African view of personhood, we don't just see a person from the individual. And the concept of wellness in African psychology is not just wellness at an individual level. It is harmony with yourself, with your community, harmony with the heavenly bodies. That's why we have things like astrology, harmony with the spirit world. That is what constitutes wellness in the African perspective. And so you'll see the community trying to, yes, they don't focus a lot on individual well-being, but they focus on community well-being as one of the strong factors to cushion the whole entire community against mental issues. But yes, of course, we are challenging that thought that here, even the individual well-being need to be looked at. Then these rituals cannot be applied outside the community. These rituals are domiciled in the Luhya community. So please don't go and speak to your dead. Maybe they will not hear you. Maybe they will not. Yeah, maybe this only works with the Luhya. Don't beat your dead. Maybe they will retaliate against you. So these rituals, we can say they are supposed to be understood in the context of the Luhya community. But again, I would challenge you that please go to your communities. There are rituals there. You can have your own rituals. But sometimes when I presented these rituals in other communities in Africa, I find there are also universality on some of the rituals that we are finding here, but not all of them are universal across the African populations. So what are the next steps as we come to the end? Now, this research did not just end here. I'm going to share a few papers that have been published in very high impact journals from this work. But we are not ending here because we believe one of the mistakes that is happening in academia in Africa and across the world is we research and then we publish. Who are we publishing for? We are publishing for the academic community. So I've published a paper and it has correlation analysis, regression analysis. My grandmother cannot understand regression analysis, but I want the research to speak to them. So what are we doing for this study? We are saying we are still going to the African epistemology. Our epistemology is not in numbers. It's not in counting. It is in storytelling. So we are in the very last stages of putting together a documentary of these rituals. So some of the video clips that I was to play for you here, they are actually extracts of what is coming in the documentary. So we are doing a whole documentary that brings together all the rituals. So this documentary, I want it to be watched by the elders, by the people, by the generations to come as a storage of these rituals, because the libraries that hold these rituals are dying. It is the elders, they are dying. So we are trying to integrate now technology in the rituals and see, can the daughter of my daughter in future, can that daughter then understand how we used to do these rituals? That's why we are moving to do a documentary, which in due time we will invite you to when we'll be launching this documentary. Next, we have a research center that we are now pushing. It's called the Indigenous Alliance Research Center. You could Google that and see what we are doing. We are trying to connect with other people who are thinking indigenous, and it's not just in psychology. We are reaching even those doing indigenous in nutrition, indigenous in other health matters. We want to put up a community and challenge one another, that we can be able to research and bring our knowledge, our African knowledge and values to the world community. And so any contact you want to have with us, collaboration, yeah, you can always reach us through the emails that are there. And you'll allow me please to share with you. Yes, this paper was just published this month. Yes, it was published yes a few days ago. Mourning, ritual participation, subjective well-being, and prosocial behavior among the Luhya people. And we had a big research team. This has been a collaborative study between Catholic University of Eastern Africa, Desa University, Durham University in the United Kingdom, and we have had quite a big team that has been working across different disciplines. We had anthropologists on board, cultural evolutionists on board, psychologists on board, because again, we are believing we cannot continue in the field of psychology just to seclude ourselves and to understand clients' issues from a psychological perspective alone. That is too narrow. We want to expand and see, can anthropologists can they add us some knowledge on understanding diagnosis and treatment? Can sociologists add us some knowledge in terms of diagnosis and treatment? Can maybe historians add this? And I think that is the essence of African way of healing. It was never just contained within one particular discipline. And the next paper is this. This was published earlier. Again, regulating community well-being through traditional mourning rituals, insights from the Luhya people of Kenya. So we possibly will be able to share this paper so that you can read and get an in-depth discussion and description of the work that we are doing. And very much we want to acknowledge the Cultural Evolution Society and Templeton Foundation. These are the organizations that funded us for 2 years to be able to conduct this study and bring out these results that we are presenting today. So I want to pause there and invite our Master of Ceremony, who is going to take us to the next stage of discussion. I think you should be clapping for me.
We clap for you.
It's okay now, you can move. Yeah? Okay.
I think Dr. Asata has done a fantastic job. How about appreciating him once again? In a better way, especially for those of you who have taken tea. Yeah, and you need to know that we didn't list that as part of the research. The rituals. Eating in this community during funerals is a serious ritual. I don't know why Dr. Asata did not list it. It was obvious. You know, there are those things you don't list because they are obvious. So that is what, for those of us who are watching online, that's what we've been doing. And we are honestly, after listening to Dr. Asata, he just makes me be proud to be a Luhya. I'm from the Wanga community, and so we have introduced a couple of words to the dictionary, as you heard from the research, and I will just remind you those words shortly. But before we do that, please turn to your neighbor, those who are here, and tell them a person in Luhya is called Luhya. Tell them a person is called Luhya. And the people of Luhyas are called Abaluhya. Lano is Vosiano ne Abaluhya. The language we speak is called Oluluhya. Tell the neighbor Oluluhya. Oluluhya, yes. And we come from a country called Ebuluhya. San. And so, as you can see on your screen, they're enjoying the meal as we have this conversation. For purposes of just acknowledging, please allow me to let you know that Dr. Stephen Asata is a senior lecturer in the Department of Psychology at the Catholic University of East Africa, and he holds a PhD in counseling psychology from the Catholic University of East Africa. His research areas include personality psychology, thanatology, and trauma. His research focus is on indigenous knowledge, as you have seen. He advocates for decolonization of psychology and amplification of the indigenous people's voice in psychological science. And of course, he has published extensively. We'll be giving you some of the details. They worked together with Dr. Elizabeth Wangare Gishimo, and Daktari must have been shocked when they were doing this research, especially the part of beating the dead. And I want you to believe that beating of the dead has nothing to do with a ritual. It's possibly the guy owed that other guy money. And so trust me, your beating is abure. And for the wailing that you saw on the list in terms of the ritual, I don't think it's emotional. It's really trying to, express yourself. Unapiga nduru, sasa huyu ameenda nani atalipa rent, so there are those things that the wailing. And so Dr. Elizabeth must have had a very tough time. And Dr. Elizabeth is a practicing clinical psychologist, a lecturer and researcher. Of course, she holds a doctorate in psychology from the United States International University, Africa. Her research areas are trauma, personal development, and use of indigenous knowledge systems in psychology. She also does research on emerging adults, young and adolescents. Her current research focuses on integration of indigenous healing modalities with modern psychological intervention in mental health. We will be giving you more details about her publications. As we get ready, please allow me to introduce our discussant of this session. And please, for those who are beaming, remove these guys who are eating in here. Remove the screen. Steve, just beam someone else. These guys are giving their people a hard time. They are behaving like the lawyers at a funeral. Even when the speaker is speaking, they are eating. You know. Thank you, Steve. And please, for those of us who are online, leave us a comment, suggestions on the chat. It will be nice for us to, connect with you. There are those of you who've got questions, and I'm sure there are many questions about this particular research. And trust me, I have 1,001, noting that there were more than 25 rituals that they found. And as we go through them, please feel free to ask questions, because that's why we're here. But allow me to ask our discussant, Zethu Kakata, currently working as a full professor in the Department of Psychology at the University of South Africa. She has extensive experience in the field of research and has worked as both an academic and a researcher in institutions in several institutions such as Statistics South Africa, Department of Psychology at the University of Pretoria, and Human Science. Please join me as we welcome our discussant for the session. And then after that, we will be going to question and answer session, a plenary session for those of us who are here. Please allow me to invite Zethu to join us and now lead us in this conversation. Zethu, if you can hear me, how is South Africa? Are you okay? Is it raining there? We are happy to have you. So if there's no problem, you can speak to us. Welcome. We see you are smiling like a Wanga girl from Luhya. Welcome. Asante.
Asante sana. Habari yako? I've prepared my whole
Musuri sana madam, musuri.
Musuri sana. I've prepared my whole talk in Kiswahili, but now I have jitters, so I won't go there. I can see that people here are Luhyas, so I don't think my Swahili will work. Thank you very much for having me here. It's always a pleasure to be here. I think the next one, I should go to Nairobi and be there physically because Dr. Asata has my hand. I'm not sure if it's still alive from back in 2023 already. I hope it has reproduced and I'm coming to fetch all of my chicken family, including today's chicken that I would have earned after my talk. Thank you very much for this beautiful work both Dr. Elizabeth and Dr. Asata have shared. I like the point they kept mentioning, which speaks to the very reason why we are doing this kind of work in psychologies of our context, in psychologies of where we live, to emphasize that the universalizing tactics of Western educations really will not work because we understand life as how it happens where we are situated as a people. Sometimes we would have similarities even with some of the Western notions, but the other times we don't have those similarities even amongst ourselves as people of the same continent. And that we appreciate and that we've always embraced since our existence. In my language, now I am Xhosa, so I am Xhosa. I am a Xhosa speaking person. We are Ngunis. I am sure some of the cultures in Kenya are Nguni cultures. We have a saying which goes like, Induku enhle igawule ezizweni, a beautiful road is found in other nations. So we listen to other people, we appreciate their cultures, and where there is a gap in our culture, we do take from their cultures what will work for us. And the problem with Western epistemology is that it imposes itself. It was imposed upon us. So if we could be allowed, we could allow ourselves an opportunity to choose whatever we want to choose or not choose, and there will be still harmony, because knowledge can coexist. Different types of knowledges can coexist. Speaking of grief, drawing from the current presentation, I liked the parts I particularly liked the most was the deterrence methods that they would use on the body of the deceased. We see the important role that the actual body plays in the cultures of grief, in what the deceased will leave behind, the manner of dying and what the meaning of that. So we make meaning with our lives. We make meaning with how we have lived, and as well as how we've died. And there is a beautiful chapter in the work of Steve Biko from South Africa. Most of you could be familiar with that name, the leader of Black consciousness. In his book, I Write What I Like, which also speaks to epistemic freedom, writing what you like, doing the kind of work that speaks to you, where he says, where he also dedicates a chapter to the importance of drawing meaning to the manner of a person's death. I think that is a very critical lesson. And also to deter some of the things. I like Dr. Asata when he says it's not about that there is a meaning behind why, for example, a departed body would be beaten. It's not really about how to make their family feel, but to correct the wrong that could affect the greater society, the greater community, even the family itself, maybe years after the person has departed. So the manner in which we read some of these deterrent methods is also important. So reading as well as comprehending why we have these rituals, why we practicalize life the way we do is also important. Maybe as we teach methodologies, as we teach these grieving therapies and techniques, that is what we should also instill to our students, that the ability to read what is presented to us is also important. Comprehending why people implemented those strategies, those methods to deter certain behaviors, because certain behaviors do not bring healing to our communities. Also, I'm sure there is a lot that you gained from this research, and it's not possible to share all of it. It might even take years. I know from my own experience that some of the things that are said in the process of collecting data, they hit you even years in years to come. The meaning of it thereof. Some of I was taken when as you were presenting about some of the practices in my culture as well. How the death would even announce itself long before it happens, or maybe months before, weeks before, through the kind of dreams the people would profess to have had before the departure of someone close to them. True. I mean, the body, I like the role the actual body of a human being plays in how it processes the information, how it receives the information, because we live in an ontology, as most of us Africans that is relational. We relate with one another as beings on this plane of life, but we also believe that we relate with other facets of being, those who are departed, the nature in itself. So the body will communicate, the body more than our conscious being, but the physical body, our spirits would actually perceive certain messages, things that you do not even understand yourself, but they will try to communicate themselves through you. And once the actual passing of an individual happens, it will all make sense. So that is how our knowledges present themselves, and most of the times that should allow us, it's permission enough for us to produce that kind of knowledge without using the Western methodologies, because some of the instances where it allows these messages to come forth, like it is clear in this research that Dr. Elizabeth and Dr. Asata have presented. There are times when we could borrow, they use the term borrow from the other methodologies, but there are times when we also pick up that as we are conducting our research, as we interacting with communities, we are also acquiring other methodologies. And most of the time, I always encourage my students that to pay attention to how now their collection method changes, how now their questioning style changes, and to jot those down and come back and write about those, because we find that we lose a lot by not recording the actual asking of questions, and the kind of questions we tend to ask that are no longer the questions we prepared, because the questions we prepared were not suited for some of the communities we were going to, or maybe they were not even suited for the topics we're trying to explore. So if we could just pick up, and that is the question I wanted to ask, if there were things that you picked up from the research community, and that you think that they will enable you to write other ways of knowledge production, other ways of other methods, if you will, of doing this kind of research, because we also want to enrich the knowledge production side of things, the methodological side of things, and that we can do when we listen carefully to what the communities are saying to us, and sometimes how they are telling us to speak with them, how they are telling us to be in conversation with them. And most of the time, they're teaching us, it's not the other way around. They become the experts, they are the knowledgeable ones, they are the true professors of those fields, and we need to pay attention to the counsel they provide and bring it forth to the university, and allow it to enrich the students, the students of research, the students we get to teach, so that we improve even on our ethics. We get to improve, we get to learn the ways of being in concert with our communities. And the speaking to the departed is also something that I related with, and the speaking actually is another important aspect of grief itself, of dealing with the passing of a loved one itself, something that is very important in psychology. We always here in our department, when we talk about psychology and its supposed impact in our lives. We always talk about the superficiality of it all when, for example, there is grief in our families. We always come back to just debrief about how useless as psychologists we are in our families, how nobody ever reaches out to us to ask for help, in search of counsel, how the elders are in charge of the entire process, how people are held by one another without even needing anything from this highly qualified psychologist with a PhD who is trained to heal, but how the healing actually is done collectively with your family through or speech through ritual, who speaks, who gets to speak, and the silence, the importance of silence, when to be silent, when to speak, who gets to do the speaking, and all of those things are very important. The listening, how to listen, you get taught basically how to listen. This is a moment, we call it ukuzola. I don't want to call it silence because I don't know how to translate inzolo, but that moment to yourself where you don't get to say anything, but you allow yourself to be vulnerable, to be held by those around you. I believe that this is great work, and because as you have said, we are building this psychology from all parts of Africa with an understanding that it is context-bound psychology. We will not make the mistake of universalizing it. We will not make the mistake of making certain cultures silence others, but we will coexist, share experience, take what works from others, and allow them to take what could work from them, from us. And it is truly a beautiful work, and it actually, it can develop further to tell us how we heal from grief, the process of healing, and how sometimes we are not even in control of the healing process, but the relation between ourselves, nature, and the unseen world will help facilitate, help us understand that kind of healing much better. And I really, really appreciate this work, and I hope you got to work with the students as well. They got to experience the richness of our cultures, because education in colonized land come from a history where we were told to look down on ourselves, told to look down on our cultures, always made to feel as though our cultures belong in a world that existed a long time ago. Yet we counter that with knowledges that come from a similar time period as what we are being deterred from looking into. So I hope with this, all I'm trying to say is that African psychology is a valid psychology. It is a psychology that has always been there, that continues to be there alongside the other psychologies. And all psychologies are in fact cultural psychologies because they all come from a cultural point of reference. It's just that other cultures were presented as though they are universal, they speak for all cultures, applicable to all cultures. And by introducing our own experience, our own cultural experience, we're saying that cannot be true because we all are a people with our own. If psychology at all is a healing discipline, a discipline that tells us how to heal from pain and also how to behave in society, then all of the world's communities have something called a psychology, and that should be given a space to breathe in the worlds of academic. Enkosi kakhulu, asante sana.
Madam Sandy in Luhya, that's how we say thank you. You can maybe mute that for now. Zetu, I've consulted with Dr. Asata, and we've given you a Luhya name, Nejaza. So you will be called, when you come to Kenya, you'll be Zetu Neseja Kakata. So Rumno, for your presentation and how you shared. And
I'm sorry, please write it on the chat. I want to claim that name.
we write it down for you, don't worry. Yeah, just now we'll send it. And as we were having a conversation with the people who are eating in this auditorium, we realized that these rituals of burying people very fast in Luhya, now that you become a Luhya, we will not do that to you. Kwa Kiluhya tunasema tutakupaka mafuta kwa muta like 40 days. Wewe tunakupaka tu mafuta. Someone can translate for you. And we stay with you for 40 days before you go. So we appreciate you. Thank you very much. We are just giving it a light touch. But ladies and gentlemen, those of us who are online and those who are in this auditorium, we just want to thank you. And particularly Dr. Asata and Nariaka. Dr. Wairimu Nariaka is also, that's the name she was given when she was out there. Dr. Mwaka, if you're online and you're with us, we are going into the question and answer session where we're going to participate and share knowledge, because that's the essence of this exercise. And in another 30, 40 minutes, we will be done. So anyone who's got a question, an observation, a value add, please feel free to, either put it on the chat. We'll be able to read those chats. And for those who are in here, please let us know when you're ready to speak and we'll be on you. For now, Dr. Mwaka, if you are online, please, the floor is yours.
Right, thank you so much. First, there is a Professor Samuel Muriithi, our DVC ARSA, and we have prominent professors here who will be really literally definitely giving in so much. Professor Wanzala from Masinde Mlilo, Prof. Dr. Anne Lutomia, all the way from here in the US. I think they would really enrich this discussion, but I think the moderator, I would want you to recognize Professor Muriithi on the forum. So if you don't mind, Prof. Muriithi, I think we've been here since I know you have had a Senate, and therefore, let me just get it back to, it will be nice that you get in and you can say hello to us so that you can be able to, we recognize you. I know we had a Senate and it took a bit of time, but prominent other scholars are here, students and faculty from different aspects can contribute, but karibu sana.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. Mwaka, and good morning, everyone. It's nice, depending on where you are in the world, some of you are in the morning, others in the evening. Caro, I don't know what time it is there. It must be at night.
Getting to 4 a.m. here.
So I hope that as you get to 4 a.m., the ancestors are also not disturbing you at night. But it's a great joy. Sorry I was not with you when you started in the morning. We had a Senate meeting which has just ended. But at first I want to thank the authors and the researchers in this area, Dr. Yuya, Professor Sakata, Dr. Sethu, who has just talked to us right now, Prof. Dr. Gichimo, who have done a great job. What I like about this and what is happening of late in the last few years is what I call reclaiming our traditions. For 60 years, we've been influenced by the West. They have told us this is that the Western theology, the Western thinking is what we should do. But what I've seen in the last few years is that we Africans are now reclaiming our traditions, our beliefs, and really one of the ways is to ensure that whatever was written in the wrong way, we correct it. Some of what we are doing today, especially the area of mourning rituals, were condemned and were dismissed as really demonic. Yet, this is the traditions that our people have lived with since creation, been there for years. So we cannot just dismiss. And so I'm very happy that this team has taken the initiative to start putting things correct. And we have a responsibility to do that. Professor David Beatty started in the 90s when he wrote African Traditional Religion Philosophy, when he talked about the living, and to talk about the living dead, the ancestors, the spirits. And he was trying to look at the link between all of them and why we are all associated with them. But again, like I said, all that has been lost in the last few decades, especially because we emphasized on what we call modernization. We think that what is West is what is good. If you visit Europe, you realize that is not true, because if you go to Finland, you realize they speak their mother tongue. If you go to France, you realize again they don't even want to hear English. If you go to Portugal, the same. And many other countries, you go to China, you go to Japan. These people value their tradition. Us, for some reasons, we've been convinced that our tradition are not the right thing. And so we have abandoned a lot of our practices. So let me remind us that we are a product of our own cultures. However much we want to dismiss other people's culture or our own cultures, we are a product of our own cultures. And so we appreciate our cultural practices and their meaning, because our behavior, our habits, and even the way we walk is really a reflection of our cultures. And so when this team get together and want to dig this matter from a psychological point of view, I would say that our ancestors really understood psychology, because they may not have the kind of education that we have, but from even the way they agreed, for example, mourning should be for a certain period, which also bring healing. How they did that, really, it can show that our people are very, very bright and very, very understanding, because they also understand the connection between the living and the dead. And so, of course, today we have Christianity, and again, we need to understand how does a Christian also understand and integrate the mourning, understand the integration, the mourning, because sometimes Christianity has been used as what we call the coating ice in a cake, whereby we only see the service, but deeper, the main cake is basically our tradition. So people sometimes would say they are Christians, but traditionally, until we get to a point whereby we can be able to know as a Christian, how do I also mourn in the right way, but again, without dismissing our cultures and our practices. So I'm very happy this morning, and I will listen because I missed some of the discussion. Although I've listened to Sethu, she got a real name from a moderator. and it shows the wider thinking across the continent. We have a responsibility, not just as psychologists, as business people, as pastors, as theologians, to dig into some of these areas and bring new knowledge, new meaning, a new interpretation of what has already been dismissed and sometimes misinterpreted in the wrong way, sometimes even condemned, so that we can guide in the right way. And as a university, this is the university, one of our core mandate is integration of faith and learning. And that includes all aspects of learning. Our culture, I teach culture, and I really love culture because I know all of us are product of culture. And so we should appreciate all cultures, get what is right, and what we can use in culture, we continue using. What we can't, or what does not align us with our Christianity, that one we can use. What we can modify, we can modify. But let's again always remember that the God in heaven created us with a purpose. And as we remain in this earth, let's continue to pursue his mandate, including understanding how to fit better in this world and even how to assist others. Zebu talked about the healing process. And I would say that as we continue with our discussion, and I'm sure we are going to learn more, I'm waiting to learn more and more from this particular discussion. I pray that it will help us to be able to understand our traditions, our cultures, not as condemned, but as a new way of thinking that will bring change in Africa, even as we move ahead. Thank you very much. Like I said, I'm sorry I was not there with you at the beginning, but I'm happy I've joined. Thank you very much. And like we say in Kenya, asanteni sana.
Thank you, Prof. Thank you, Prof. I know you've done a lot and we are already going towards the end of the session. And the moderator, Honorable Walter Mongare, is actually the one from Mumias in my village running this. But Walter, we do have quite also have published who can add this contribution. If you don't mind, allow me to have Professor Wansala and Dr. Lutomia add into this discussion. Any of you can go ahead. Probably Professor Wansala, we start with you. Okay. All right. Yeah, your mic. Prof, probably as you do your mic, Dr. Ann, all the way here in the US, Dr. Ann.
Thank you so much. Can you hear me?
Sure.
Okay, good. Yeah, thank you so much, Dr. Mwaka, for inviting me, and greetings everyone who managed to come. Thank you, Dr. Asata and others. Dr. Asata, I think we interacted years ago when we produced our book with some other scholars where we were looking at practices from Embu, Luhya, and Luo communities. I was still a graduate student, and there I was just practicing how to analyze data. And as Dr. Sakata has said, the practice that we have to put in place is to examine how we make meaning of the data that we collect and some of the methodologies that come out of that. When I was writing with this, I was co-authoring that chapter, I interviewed my dad, who passed away last year. May his spirit rest in peace. He was a Wanga. He was from the Wanga Council of Elders, and he had a lot of funds of knowledge on our practices and death. So I just want to contribute a little bit to what they've shared with us, and maybe we'll talk about this later. So just this point that the funerals don't stop. In a way, they are ongoing, because when people who didn't manage to come for the funeral come, say, months after. Like my dad, we buried my dad on 3rd of January, and now some relatives who were not able to come, they come to honor him. They come to stand on his grave. So there's that practice of you coming back and standing on people's graves, especially people who live in the diaspora. When they return, they go to stand on people's grave, and it's a Luhya culture. You do that, yeah. And I wanted also to add about the learning that happens, because the authors looked at, the researchers looked at how Luhyas learn about these rituals. I had not learned fully the rituals, but when my dad died, I learned a lot about the rituals, because as you're going through the motions, there's some elders who teach you what has to be done. In my culture, I am Amugogo. So as Amugogo, Amugogo is a woman of my age, a woman of the clan. So I'm from the Wanga Kingdom. My clan is Babaleka. And when my dad died, we also had to stay with our mom for about a week before for my sisters who were married before they left. Yeah. So you stay at home. So there are all those practices that people have. There are many practices even that I learned about the kind of cows that the sons-in-laws bring. That's the types of cows that the sons will bring. Uh, the number of cows that have to be slaughtered. The parts of the cow that people get, the uncles on the mom's side, how they come and leave the compound. So there are many practices that take place in Luhya culture that I'm so glad that we're starting to discuss and we're starting to talk about them. And writing all these practices is important. I've been writing and remembering what I was taught during that time. And I think these funds of knowledge are important because that's how we're going to contribute to our cultures or our knowledge, because we've not contributed to knowledge enough. I was also interested in practice and how they shifted, because in Luhya culture, we dance and sing a lot. So during my dad's funeral, we had disco matanga. So the Christians were doing the thing and the young people were having their thing. But I remember a grandfather of mine who died in the 80s, they didn't have the disco matanga. They had this almost like a griot who was singing and naming our ancestors. So we could hear, Wesuta of this person. Then you can be able to learn. You hire them to come and do that. They're like griots. That practice has faded a little bit. What you see in Luhya land mostly, it's also they sukuti down. People after they buried, there's a whole dance. There's people dance and celebrate. Yeah, and what I also experienced from during that funeral time as a daughter of the clan was that when someone has died, you don't clean. You don't clean, you don't cook, you do nothing. I felt so cared for, I'm a little bit of a control freak, but then also I had to chill, and that love and care that I got from my aunties, the women, other women of the clan, is something that I have to examine. I also got a lot of love and care from other Luhya women who are my age mates, who immediately they heard that my dad had died. For example, my friend Masiwasike, who is in a community with me of Luhya girls, she went home to make sure that everything was there, that my parents, my sister's brother and my mom were well taken care of. She did the shopping. She was connecting with me. So I had sisters, Luhya sisters coming around me. And when I got home, my Luhya sisters who had gone to high school with came around me. I'm in a group I went to KU, and apart from the KU group, the people who finished my year who came around me, the Luhya people in the group also surrounded me. They were calling me, they sent me messages. So I felt very loved, and I built relationships and friends because my dad had passed on. So this idea of the kind of friends and relationships that you build when someone passes on, we can also it's a catharsis within psychology. The way I got to meet my young cousins, my extended family, all my clan members. I was home for 2 months, just getting to so therefore I went through some of the rituals. We got to cement my dad's grave. We got to celebrate his life. I got to see my mom give away some of his clothes, allow us to pick some of his clothes. I picked some of it. I wanted to remember my dad, so I took his African shirt and I put it on. Sometimes when I have a meeting, I put it on. I'm like, oh, Daddy, I'm putting on this for you. It gives me some power, right? So I'm saying this to say that we need to write. We need to write in our experiences and share them enough. And of course, I'm past getting ashamed. People like to tease Luhyas. Oh my God. In a way, if you're young, you can be ashamed of being a Luhya, but we've got this knowledge that I think is rich, that other people who've forgotten because of their experiences can gaze at and learn from, because all our communities in Africa had these practices, and some of them got eroded. They had a sort of practices. Some of them got eroded, as the authors said, because of globalization, missionary, and westernization. Yeah. So I'll end there because I can go on about this, but I want to thank you all. I want to. I'm so happy that I got to be here. When I saw this advertisement in a group that Dr. Mwaka is on, I said I'll stay up and I have to learn with you. I am at Urbana Champaign, and I'm at the Center for Indigenous Science. So work around Indigenous knowledge is something that is near and dear to me. Here, I do work with scientists who work with the Indigenous Native people. And, you know, there's a lot of knowledge that sits within this group of people that I am also learning, and I'd like to bring it home. You know, so I'm hoping that I can get to work with the group in Deister in future. Thank you for listening to me. Asanteni.
All right, thank you so much, Prof. Thank you. No, and Honorable Walter, she has a book that you can download and just read on this as well. Also enrich. You can Google her. I'll get us the link. I know Professor Wanzala, you wanted to add something, and then we can give back to moderator. And anybody else was. Professor Wanzala, you can now speak. Prof, are you okay there? The mic is on.
We are waiting for Prof to speak.
Oh. All right. Prof, your mic has you.
In the meantime, as we wait for Prof to get his microphone on, Madam Lutomia, can you hear me?
Yes, Nyambane Sunga Papa.
Can she hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me now? I said yes, Nyambane Sunga Papa.
Yeah,
Ore Papa.
you know, you're the first lawyer in history that I've heard speaking some English that is shocking. Like the people here, they keep saying data. And I've heard you say data. I was like, oh my God, girl, you're rolling. You know.
But
thank you
so
very much for thanks for sharing. We really appreciate you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I don't know whether Professor Wanzala is ready. And when I come to the US, please drop me your address at Kamba, you know what I'm saying, right? Yeah. Oh,
yeah, you should. Nyambane, I knew you when you I went to St. Anne's. Nyambane, I went to St. Anne's, and when you were very young, you lived across St. Anne's, and your dad was my Swahili mentor. Yeah, education officer Mongare. So we all of us in the boarding school knew you and Billy.
And don't spill the secrets. Don't tell them our secrets. When we were young, we did crazy things. They can be listed as rituals. Yeah. but thank you. So when I tell them I'm a lawyer, they should believe me now. Yeah, because we grew up together with you. I don't know whether Professor Wanzala is ready. If he's not, any of us here, please, if you have a question, you have a value add. There are those, of course, those of you who have shared with us on the chat room. Please allow me to just to quickly pull up. We
Prof
have
is ready, actually, Prof.
Carmen in South Africa. Ubuntu is a philosophy of shared humanity, captured in the saying, a person is a person through other persons, highlighting interconnectedness, dignity, and compassion. No one exists in isolation. We are bound together in a shared humanity. Each person has inherent worth, recognized and upheld by others. Caring for others and practicing generosity are essential virtues. Thank you very much. Lorian Mseri, quite thorough and educative research. It takes passion and dedication to collect data in such a study. And of course, we are waiting for Professor Wanzala, who is adding something called Ohusema Omuimo, which is an important and indeed complex ritual after burial ceremony of a man after 8 to 16 years, setting the homes of his sons to be free and independent to conduct their affairs throughout their lifeline on the planet Earth before departing. Njoroge, great presentation. The method used were very interesting for collective communities where much of their key information is non-coded. Please, can you explain a little more for those of us interested in engaging in such indigenous research work? I think that is to the two of you, and then I'll be reading the rest whenever you're ready. You can come.
Professor, you still can speak? I saw you heard you speak.
Yeah, thank you, Lutomia. Yesterday, Dr. Elizabeth sent me your book that Dr. Mwaka had sent to her. Then I remembered we were talking when you were writing that book. In that time, I was still doing my PhD, and I reread the book with a lot of new meaning. I already recommended to my doctoral students. I'm teaching a unit on grief. It's a really good book, and thank you so much for coming for this presentation. So a question is being asked on how can we engage? How can we be help those who want to do work in this area? And I know on this area, on this platform, we have different scholars, and it's a challenge I want to put across to faculty members, professors, and our universities. The question is, are we ready for students who are ready to engage in this kind of a field? When a doctoral student brings, say, a topic on indigenous knowledge, are we ready to engage? Or we tell them they must do correlation and prevalence? We must help them to look at regression. But a student is saying, I want to pursue something in my culture. Can't our cultures be studied? Can't we write dissertations on our cultures? And for me, I would encourage the students who are listening and the other researchers who are here who are listening that this is an area we want to venture in. As Dr. Liz was presenting on axiology and epistemology of knowledge, we realized that what we are using a lot even in psychological science, these are Western epistemologies, which are not wrong. They are not wrong, but they align with the value system of that culture. Is there a way we can allow our value system to be also inculcated in psychology? When we were preparing this presentation, we were reading a paper that says that 95% of published work in psychology comes from the global north. And the question is, we are a majority world. Africa, we are a majority world, but relying on data from the minority world. I think we need to challenge ourselves that we can be able to read, to write in this area. Some of the initiatives that are happening locally, where I'm affiliated in our university, we have a unit on African psychology. I think Tangaza University is represented here. They are also having a unit in African psychology. And we are really promoting the studying of psychology from the lenses of the African mind. And it's really quite interesting. So those who are willing to engage, we can be able to engage. I like, again, Daystar is really taking a lead in this. Dr. Mwaka, I've always known you online. I've never met you, but I've really enjoyed the working in this space with Dr. Liz. So we can come together and do something to support the students who are willing to enter this field of indigenous knowledge so that we can be able to promote the study of psychology from the African lenses. And thank you, Professor Kakata. When we have these events, I always call on you and you come. One day you need to come to visit Kenya, and please invite us to visit South Africa. She's one of the professors who are advocating for the use of indigenous languages. And I think when the DVC was speaking, he has challenged that when you go to France, they are using their mother tongue called French. Britain, they are using their mother tongue called English. Portugal, they are using their mother tongue called Portuguese. Then when we come to African schools, we even have rules barring speaking of our mother tongue. That's a question that I always challenge the African scholars. what is criminal about our languages? That's the question I always ask. So Nyambane, come and take us through. I may find myself preaching and I don't want to.
Lano, wenya kusia imberi no tumbangu wefwe in the spirit of what Professor said. We go back to our mother tongue. But because we don't want to start today, allow us to start that another time. Do you have any observations in here? Any thoughts that you want to share? Steve will be around here to pass the laptop so that we can highlight you. Please, if you have something, you can put up your hand. In the meantime, we continue to welcome those who are sharing their thoughts online. We don't take it for granted. Thank you very much for your patience. We should be done in the next 15 minutes. Is that okay? So by midday, quarter midday, we should be out of here. Anyone who's inspired to speak, and please make reference to the rituals. They are over 25. And this guy wanted to play that song. As we prepare, we will be playing that song to evoke some emotions. By the way, those rituals are all encompassed in what we hear and what we see. So we will be talking about that shortly. Yes, madam, introduce yourself and give your comment. And also, if there's a question, let us know how you want it answered. Go ahead.
Hi, my name is Sawia Hassan. I'm a recent graduate from USIU Psychology. My question is, in the presentation, it was mentioned that for the legendary people in the community, they are buried while seated at the meals. What about the females?
You're asking specifically on the heroes and the burial ceremony for the heroes who are buried in a certain, formation, whether they are seated properly like kings, like in the Wanga community, the Mumia was our kingdom, the Mumia kingdom. And so Mumia was buried seated. And Prof. Daktari Atsatsa was talking about the Awazes who speak to him and he accepts to fold their hands. I think we need more research on that. Come and answer that question. Okay.
Yeah, thank you, Sawia. Yeah, Sawia is my student in USIU. The ritual of heroic burial, the one where people are buried when seated, it's not applied in many clans. Actually, it is his clan and another clan called Bashitsula. Those are the people who bury people seated. Other communities will bury people in the same, the lying position. So this community is highly patriarchal. So you'll see again, the honor they give to men. The honor that is given to men. And even when we looked at the rituals of fertility, they bury a man who has no children or who did not marry. They bury him with a thorn, but then the woman is supposed to be buried in the fence. When we compare that, you'll find they are more thorough to the woman. They are more, these rituals are more thorough to the woman. And what we found, the elders were saying, they can't honor the women because the women get married outside. So they can't honor you in that clan. You need to be honored where you got married. But now when you follow them where they were married, we don't find that. So there are those, again, differences, gender differences that we see in the rituals that also, women, unless, some of these rituals were developed by men themselves. I think women need to develop their own rituals, maybe being buried with the head facing down. Maybe that can work. So I challenge the women to develop their own rituals also.
I hope you are satisfied with the response.
Now I have another question.
You have more questions to ask, but we'll be coming back to you as we ask Nechesa. Daktari, if she has something to add on to that. Nechesa Izano Metako Ishin. Yeah, we are speaking our own language. Yeah. Anyone else with a question?
All right, thank you very much, Walter. So maybe just a bit of an add-on. I think one of the things that we actually picked as we were going through these rituals, and even when we were collecting the data in terms of even who was participating more and who was talking a lot more, and even like in the focus groups, when you look at the way the participants actually were sitting and organizing themselves, there seemed to be a heavy leaning towards what we talk of as patriarchy. In fact, I think one of the things we discussed with Doc is perhaps we need to go a bit deeper, because we don't want to really lean towards and say that these societies tend to favor men more than women. I think we need to do a bit more inquiry to understand, what is the logic, or what is the reasoning behind, the men seeming to be more dominant than women, because of course, at this point, that was what we observed, but then we can't really speak to it and say the reason behind the why that things are that way. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Before we come to you, Madam, we have Pauline Molobi and Henry Karakacha and Sinta with your hands up on the chat. Pauline, do you want to open your microphone? Let's hear your observation, your thought as we come to an end. Pauline?
Thank you so much. My name is Pauline Molobi, a student at ISTAT in Masters. And I want to thank Dr. Kishimu and Masasa for the wonderful presentation. It is very interesting. I am a Luhya, and there are so many things that I've also learned along the line, but my interest was on this area where one of the regions came out loudly. And when I look at the conversation that has been going on, it is all about the regions and how they are contributing to the mental health and the healing of the grieved, especially the grieved family. Now, the ritual on the beating of the body. I happened to be at one point to visit, or rather to condole with a friend who had lost her father, and the father had committed suicide. And in the evening when they brought the body, actually all of us, apart from a few elderly men, were allowed to come near the body. All of us, we were to hide inside the houses. You cannot see the body. So they buried the body far away from the family compound, and they had to beat that. So we actually sneaked through the window, or rather we were peeping through the window to see what was happening. So they beat actually that body, and they dropped it into the grave that had already been dug. And they filled that grave with stones completely, and the grave was unidentifiable. I mean, it was, to me, it was more than traumatizing, especially to the family of the deceased. Now, I was left, when we are having this conversation, I was left wondering, is this part of the healing process? Because how will the children, if I, as a friend to this particular lady, felt so bad that this could be traumatizing to the children, then how about those children? Probably Doc can come out and see how are these rituals actually going to help. That is number one. Number two, I'm also looking at, we are living in a modernized, society. Now we thank God for the rituals. We thank God of who we are, and we can't change who we are. And we have over time embraced some of these rituals. But my question is, in the modern society, and plus the Christianity that we have embraced, or the religion, it might not just be Christianity, but plus the religion that we have embraced, how do we incorporate the two? How do we merge? How do we marry religion and the traditional rituals and modernity, so that it fits where we are right now? Even when we're explaining, for example, to our children, and they can see the relevance of these rituals. Thank you so much. I have really enjoyed this presentation.
Thank you very much, Pauline. Thank you, asante sana. Kuelezea vindu umetuelezea. Yani, that's great. Well, thank you for what you've explained. And I'm sure we will be speaking on to that hiding of the body, both from, of course, from a cultural perspective, and at the same time, what are the beliefs that we have on people interacting with somebody or a body that has committed suicide? People have this conversation that it's contagious, but a very good point, Pauline, you raised in terms of trauma and posts the event on and occurrences, what happens to that. We are coming back to Henry Karakacha before we respond and before Daktari both respond. Henry, do you have something as you prepare? Let's hear from the plenary here. The person who's on the spotlight, please introduce yourself and your comment as we come back to Henry and Sinta. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, our moderator.
Oriomno, Oriomno.
And also the release, whether it is Christian. So what is the sustainability of the data that you collected and the research findings that you have come out with? Thank you. That's my answer.
Thank you very much. We come to Sinta. No, Henry Karakacha. Henry, your observation and your question. And then we come to Sinta before we go back to our researchers for responses.
Okay, thank you very much, Henry Mumali Karakacha. I'm a student, PhD student at Where. So my observation, first of all, is the ritual. When a person dies, in the Luhya community, we usually have what we call eulogy. And that eulogy, the way it's done, it's so detailed, such that the relatives, they get time to talk about their relationship with the dead and the journey generally. Maybe if the person was sick for a long time, they explain. I like that ritual somehow when I relate it to a technique of free association in psychoanalytic theory, because the person who is bereaved gets time to discuss the journey, and the long run, I think it has some therapeutic need. But my question to Dr. Asaza specifically is, we have a ritual in Luhya called Okusola, whereby after the person is dead, usually we have young men coming and they destroy property in that home. Sometimes even they burn those local houses, they cut bananas. Maybe you can highlight something on it and try to connect that ritual to psychology to see what purpose it serves. So that's my contribution and my question. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Henry. Sinta, your observation, then we will be taking one last question from here. As we said, this is not just the final conversation. This is just an opener on this conversation. So feel free, we'll be sharing the contacts of the two researchers. The conversation goes beyond this chat room. The conversation goes beyond this plenary. And it's a catalyst to our thoughts in our communities where we come from, and begin to compare this knowledge. Sinta, over to you.
Thank you very much, Nyambane. My name is Jacinta Nabangi. I'm a student of psychology masters at Tangaza University. I was very excited when I saw the topic of discussion today. I'm a Luhya from Bungoma, and I wanted to comment on the whaling. And Nyambane, you talked about that and made some hilarious comments about the whaling and the talking.
Yes.
And what I wanted to say is that this whaling, Karakacha has said.
Thank you, team. My name is Jane Kamau. Yes.
Hello?
Oh, sorry.
Hello? So I was saying that whaling. Hello?
Hello? We can hear you.
You can hear me?
Let's mute that.
Okay.
You can go ahead.
Okay, thank you very much. So I was saying that whaling, like Karakacha has just said, I was looking at it as equivalent to free association. And also when somebody's wailing and crying and talking about the dead and how they related to them, it connects very well with the narrative techniques that bring about healing. And then that whaling also, recently I saw something, I saw a video that was doing the rounds about psychotherapy setup in town where people are invited to go into a room and scream. And so I was remembering that and connecting it with the wailing among the Luhyas. It is therapeutic. It's the screaming that brings about therapy. Those are some of my observations that I wanted to share. Thank you very much. This has been very edifying.
Thank you, Jacinta. And now our last contributor from the floor. Please introduce yourself and make your observation and your question, and we will be having our researchers respond to them. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Dr. Atsatsa and the other members of this panel. My name is Jane Kamau, and I'm a clinical psychologist going through my PhD here at Daystar, and I'm a trauma specialist. So when I learned about this, I really wanted to attend and learn more. My observation is that today I've come to understand something that took place in our workplace once when a colleague committed suicide, and we had contributed some funds for the burial, and the dad was called to come for it. And we couldn't understand why he was calling his son Takataka. And he was saying, we don't celebrate such Takataka, and we are really waiting for him to come home so that we can flog him and beat him as a community. So we all feared, and I don't think most of my colleagues attended that funeral, because we imagined the dead body from the morgue. It had decomposed and then it's going to be flogged and we will be watching. The fear and the trauma was too heavy for us. We never attended, and the man didn't take even the funds. He said there is no celebration for such Takataka. So thank you for bringing this to the light, because today I've understood. We were really wondering how a father can be that heartless to the son, but now I understand. Thank you for bringing light to us. Thanks.
Thank you very much. We will be wrapping up shortly, and thank you very much for your patience, your participation, your contribution, we will have our researchers make the final submission and the wrap-up. And then, of course, we are requesting for those of us who are online and for those of us who are here, please share with us your email address. The researchers will be honored to share the findings with you on email. So chat, you have to put your email on the chat, we'll be able to pick it up. And for those who are here, we will pass a note around for your thoughts. I will now invite Dr. Elizabeth Wangari Gishimu, and together with Dr. Stephen Asatsa, who have kept us glued since morning at 9 o'clock having this conversation. We don't take it for granted for your response and your wrap-up.
Sally, can you mute your mic? You're really making noise.
Yeah, we will respond to the issues raised, and we are working collaboratively with Dr. Liz, so responding on some issues as I respond on other issues. I want to start first on the question of religion and culture.
Can the host mute Sally? Can the host mute
refer
Sally?
us to
Or remove her?
the Bible? When Jesus came, the Jewish community they were worried. They always sent people to ask Jesus, did you come to abolish our law? The law was their culture. Did you come to abolish our law? And he said, no, I did not come to abolish the law. But I am a strong believer in the Christian faith. But even when I look at the Christianity and the way it was brought to us, again, I normally look at, can we decolonize also religion? Because what I see, some of the things that religion came with, they are good things, but you look at even the way the religion itself is presented to us, it's like there was no God in Africa. They came and discovered, they brought God. God was already here, but the religion has come like they were bringing God in Africa. And these are the questions I ask when I even meet friends from theology, that when I look at most African communities, God was one. We were monotheists. We were not worshiping idols. There was a God already. And I think also in the Bible, when St. Paul went somewhere and you're telling people, I see you have written somewhere to an unknown God. I have come to make that God known. But you see the way the missionaries bring religion, then they come and tell us, you did not know God. We have brought God. So what happens there then? They say, in my culture, you are not allowed. Even today, some of the churches do not allow us to play the Isukuti dance, the Isukuti drum in the church. They say that cannot be played in the church, but they allow a keyboard. A keyboard came from a culture. They allow a guitar that came from a culture, but they tell us, don't play Isukuti. It used to be played to the ancestors, and it is demonic. So religion has been brought to demonize everything in Africa, and we were created beautifully. We were created beautifully. Our cultures were good. So what I would say, what has existed for many times, and that's why in our research, we categorically also brought in religious leaders. And there was this question I went asking during the research. I was asking the religious leaders, do you agree with rituals? And they would tell me, no, we are born again. We don't do rituals. Then I asked them, I see when you are burying people, you wear white. You put a cross on the grave. Isn't that a ritual? So there are also rituals in the Christian faith that are not, we couldn't say they are biblical. I've never seen in the Bible where they say when someone dies, put a cross on the grave. This is a creation of the Christian family. So if we are doing those rituals and they are acceptable, they are helping us. We pray for the dead. We sing. We don't, in the Christian faith, they don't read the verses they read in our wedding. They are not the same verses they read in our funeral. So then why are we demonizing culture when culture is also saying this is our way we deal with our thing? So what we recommend is conversation. Religion and culture, there should be conversation, and none of them is dominant. We can't say now we abandon culture and then we follow religion, or neither we follow religion and abandon culture. There should be conversation. And actually what I'm seeing, some of the rituals now they are integrating. Like now when they start to dig a grave, the pastor has to be there to pray. I like that kind of integration. So that's one of the responses I would give. Then I want to wind up with this ritual of beating the dead, very controversial. One of the papers that I've posted there, when I send it for review, we had a serious fight with reviewers. They had to question, and here we had to explain. And first, coming from a standpoint that we are not endorsing or objecting, we are describing what happens. We are descriptive. This research is telling us what happens. But when someone dies of suicide, we want to say this person has rights. They need to also not to be treated like that. In my presentation earlier, I said the community tends to put value on community well-being, not the individual. Because I asked the elders, when you beat this person, how does their father feel? The father of these children, whom you are beating the father because he died of suicide. Them, they are not seeing someone who died of suicide. They are seeing a father. So that there's that conversation. We are also telling the community, no, there are ways you can express this anger. But I want to come back to, is it Jen who talked about trauma? Because that whole event is traumatized. And I want us to see, when you look at Kubler-Ross stages of grief, one of the stages is anger. One of them is anger. So first, we also need to admit, if the community is calling this person takataka, that is expression of anger. It is a legitimate feeling. The community is feeling frustrated. Why did you kill yourself? So again, as we care for the one who is dead, we need to care for this one who is actually working with anger, expressing anger. But then as counselors, we can come in and see how can we guide them to express this anger in a way that does not traumatize others. But we want to acknowledge that even that anger of calling him takataka, whatever what they want, that is anger. But it is genuine. If they can call them in a private room, possibly that is okay. So I want to ask Dr. Liz to come and also give her sentiments as we head towards the end.
So thank you. And maybe I will address myself to two queries on the sustainability of this research versus the element of modernization, and then how does that impact on what we are trying to advance. And perhaps I start with modernization, and my rebuttal on modernization. There's due to our history with colonization, one of the ways that a lot of our ways of knowing, our methods, our cultures were lost is because our ways of being were demonized. And the question becomes, were we not civilized before the coming of the white man? Were we not advancing as a people before whatever happened to us historically happened? So even as we talk about modernization then, and in the context of what we are trying to advance, culture, generally speaking, is dynamic. It is not static. And what we are saying, or the point of view that we are coming from, is that while what has dominated is a lot of Western epistemology, Africans too have an epistemology. So we are not saying get rid of what is in existence. We are saying they can coexist. We can also promote our own. So the notion of modernization again here, it's yes, there's and as with any culture, there's always adaptation from or when you're exposed to other ways, other people's ways of being, and other ways of knowledge or other types of knowledge. Of course, it's going to influence you, but we are saying it is not one over the other one. Both of them can coexist. Now, the other aspect of sustainability, Dr. Asata mentioned part of what we are trying to do is more of community engagement. What has been happening for a long time in academia, we do very beautiful research, then we publish, but the question is, this knowledge and the methods we've used, how can a common person really be able to read that material, interact with that material, and really understand what it is that we're saying? And that is why we are looking into other ways that we can actually package this information so that anybody who interacts with it can actually gain from it. So it's more of coming out of our academia Eiffel Towers and actually going to where the people are. And part of that is dissemination. And in our and with technology, of course, documentary. In the documentary, we get to package the information in a manner that anybody who interacts with the information can actually get to understand it. And more so, again, with technology, of course, it means that this information will outlive us. It will be there even, and someone else can pick it up and actually advance and probably also add on to it from what it is that we are trying to put out there. So thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Sata and Dr. Wairimu, for an illuminating presentation. You have walked us through fascinating and complex journey of pre-burial, burial, and post-burial traditions. You've detailed how these rituals serve as vital expressions of community, grief, and spiritual belief among our people, the Luhya. Your findings, to be honest, powerfully illustrate how deeply these indigenous practices are integrated into community well-being, and above everything else, for psychological healing. You've offered to us very complex, nuanced perspectives, to be honest, on death and bereavement in a way that is both captivating, scary, yet informing us. So we don't take that for granted. Receive our profound gratitude, and on behalf of those who are online and those who are here, we want to appreciate you and we thank you for the information. And this opens up to the cultural systems around the globe, and how some of us can not just observe, but how we can learn from it, both honoring those who are living and also respecting those who are deceased. I now request Dr. Mwaka to make a vote of thanks and closure to the program. Dr. Mwaka, please.
All right, so thank you so much, the moderator, Venerable Walter Mangari. You've come in so quickly, you've been able to moderate, you were able to balance, especially when we hadn't really hadn't started off, you were able to make things work easily and very creative, and therefore we really appreciate you. Want to appreciate the researchers. Very good. Without you, wouldn't be here. Definitely, researchers, you've done a great job. The doctorates, you guys, without this discussion, I can be sure if we begin this discussion today again, we continue, we will not finish, because we've just had a little bit of the Luhya. We are yet to think about the Kisses, we think about the Kikuyus, think about the South Africans. You can imagine the verse in Africa. So we really appreciate the researchers for the good job. We still will tell the funding agency, please give them more funds so that they can enrich this research and expand the scope of this research so that we can continue having this. Probably this is the awakening moments for us to be able to now discuss matters regarding grief, mourning in the African way, and then the mental illness that come around with this. Of course, our researchers all over, the ones who have come all the way from other countries, including South Africa, the US, and others, we really appreciate you contributing this knowledge back at home here so that we can be able to enrich our research and even providing for your resources for us to expand our knowledge. Of course, the Desa University, there's no order really, but Desa University for hosting us and having us to be here, Catholic University and other universities that have been part of this. I think there was Catholic University, there was University of East Africa, we had, I think, USIU, we had a university in the UK, all those universities that have worked together on this research, we appreciate, because then you're giving us a very good dialogue, dialogue in terms of talking now, beginning to tell ourselves, we need to bring in this, we need to discuss the scholarly areas around African indigenous knowledge so that we can bring in and contribute towards understanding of things that work for us. There's nothing wrong to mourn in the best way. Probably the next time we should be thinking, how different mournings, how people mourn in different communities help them heal faster, and why it is important to mourn, whether long period or short term or whatever, it doesn't matter. So we really appreciate these universities that have collaborated to ensure that this research is rich and bring this discussion back home. We are very, very grateful. That, of course, we want to thank the audience, both online. We are sorry. I have received so many saying they were locked out. They found the link full. There's somebody who told me I've tried 6 times. In future, definitely we'll be ensure that we are able to accommodate everybody. But hopefully what has been recorded can be shared so that students, everybody, the scholars, the faculty, the students, people in the academy can be able to hear, to listen to it. But also, even those after the academy would just want to see what knowledge were we sharing, because this affects all of us in one way or the other. So the audience back physically in Nairobi and those online virtual, we appreciate your presence, because this has really made the difference for us here. Your contributions were rich. I can tell you the discussion here can be so much, but we may not be able to respond. But I think it would be nice to have the contacts of the researchers just in case there's a follow-up, so that we can be able to have questions be directed to them. People have requested if the PowerPoints can be shared. I think there's also always the notion that, can you share the notes? Hopefully people read the notes, but they even have other research, like books that have been shared. Please read, go back and also download the research published by the researchers. I think they're available online. You can just Google one of them, and then you can get the research and then be able to read. I think for the production team, sometimes not very easy, especially to work with people like us who really say, no, things have to be perfect, and sometimes we want to take charge. You're very patient with some people like us, but we appreciate your work because you've been able to calm, and we began as very well. So we really, really appreciate. And of people giving you, physical tea. For us, we don't know what we did, but there are people been making the catering office that has made sure that people are having some drinks here in Nairobi, having some snacks. We appreciate you. So basically, we appreciate everybody. We may not mention Professor Dono Mrethi, if you're still on. Say thank you so much, the Vice Chancellor, for allowing this dialogue. Probably we should have more of these colloquiums, encourage more of indigenous knowledge to be shared here. But more important is that we are saying, let's publish, let's disseminate information, let's make research rich, and let's collaborate. The only way is collaborate now. Let's have different groups of different communities, South Africa vis-a-vis Kenya, or even Kenyan among themselves, or even I've seen Nigerians here, Kina Chibudi and others have come all the way. So we've had so many people coming from different communities. We really, really appreciate. So I wish you all the best, but more important is let's share this knowledge and read and publish and keep practicing and bring it back home so that we can be able to have our students who are coming through this go through and learn what we've been able to do. But also our own children, as we grow up our children, let them teach them our values, our norms, our some of these things that can actually affect. Somebody's actually saying a fireplace, yes, where we can all meet and we can go back and, things keep just going like this and going back. And so thank you. I can't mention all of us. Above all, thank you to God for allowing us to be in this. Thank you, our chaplaincy, and may God's name be glorified, and may we continue to work together for the glory of his own kingdom. Have a lovely time wherever you are. We appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. The fireplace you're suggesting, we are not very sure because it was a pre-burial ritual, the first one around the fire. So I don't know whether that will happen, but thank you very much. We look forward to again serving you from Daystar family. We thank you for those who have been online. We thank you for those who are here. We leave you with this Luhya ritual.